Think about this for a moment. Everything you want, everything you aspire to be, everything you dream of achieving, it all hinges on one fundamental principle: knowledge. The more you understand, the more control you have over your own life, and the more you grow, the freer you become. There's no escaping this truth. It's as real as gravity. If you refuse to learn, if you turn away from the challenge of education, whether formal or self-directed, you sentence yourself to a life dictated by forces beyond your control. But if you embrace knowledge, if you cultivate the discipline to educate yourself daily, you begin to master not only the world around you, but more importantly, yourself. People often think of power in external terms: money, influence, authority, but real power, the kind that truly shapes lives, starts internally. It's the ability to think critically, to analyze situations, to discern truth from deception. It's the power to make informed decisions rather than being swayed by emotion, propaganda, or the latest trend. Knowledge gives you that. It sharpens your perspective, helping you see what others miss. It allows you to recognize patterns, anticipate challenges, and position yourself ahead of the curve. Without it, you're at the mercy of those who do understand, those who make the decisions, set the rules, and shape the narratives. And if you're not the one in control of your own mind, someone else is. But knowledge alone isn't enough. Growth is essential. Because knowledge without growth is just stagnant information. It sits there, collecting dust, unused and unrealized. Growth is what happens when you apply what you've learned, when you refine your thinking, when you push past the limitations of yesterday. It's uncomfortable, it demands effort, but it's also the very thing that sets you free. Freedom isn't just about escaping a 9-to-5 job or having financial independence. It's deeper than that. True freedom is intellectual and psychological independence. It's the ability to operate in the world without being confined by ignorance, self-doubt, or fear. It's the capacity to engage with life fully, to adapt, to take control of your own trajectory. When you prioritize learning, when you challenge yourself daily to understand more, to think more, to be more, you break free from the mental chains that keep so many people stuck in place. But let's be honest, learning isn't always easy. It's far simpler to scroll endlessly through distractions, to settle into routines that don't require deep thought, to avoid the discomfort that comes with confronting new ideas. But ease is a dangerous illusion. The mind, just like the body, atrophies when left unused. If you don't challenge it, if you don't exercise it, it weakens. And a weak mind is easily manipulated. A weak mind avoids responsibility. A weak mind blames others for its circumstances instead of taking charge. But a strong mind, one that is constantly being refined, strengthened, expanded, becomes an unstoppable force. And this is why educating yourself daily is not just a recommendation, it's a necessity. Read books that challenge you, listen to lectures that stretch your understanding, engage in conversations that force you to articulate and defend your ideas. Seek out knowledge not just to collect facts, but to deepen your wisdom and then apply it. Because knowledge without action is like a map never used. It might show you the way, but it won't get you anywhere unless you take the steps. Every day is an opportunity to grow. Every moment presents a choice. Remain where you are or push forward into something greater. Those who understand this, those who commit to the relentless pursuit of knowledge and growth, those who are willing to face the discomfort of change, those are the people who rise above, who shape their own lives instead of being shaped by circumstance. So ask yourself, are you willing to do what it takes? Because the world will not wait. Life moves forward, with or without you. The question is, will you take control of your own mind? Will you arm yourself with the knowledge and growth necessary to carve out your own path? Or will you remain stuck, dependent on others to think for you, to decide for you, to lead your life for you? People have this idea that education is something that happens inside four walls, that it's limited to textbooks, degrees, and formal instruction. But that's a narrow and outdated way of looking at it. The truth is, the world itself is your classroom. Every experience, every conversation, every challenge, it's all an opportunity to learn, to sharpen your thinking, to refine your understanding of reality. And if you're not actively learning from life, then you're missing out on the most valuable education available to you. Think about it. Some of the most successful, insightful, and competent people in history weren't shaped by formal education alone. They were shaped by their ability to observe, to question, to extract lessons from everything around them. They understood that knowledge isn't confined to what's taught in schools. It's embedded in the very fabric of life itself. The problem is, most people don't see it. They walk through life blind to the lessons unfolding in front of them because they haven't trained themselves to pay attention. But if you shift your mindset, if you start looking at the world as a vast, dynamic classroom, then everything changes. Suddenly, every situation, even the difficult, painful ones, becomes an opportunity to grow. Every person you meet, whether they inspire you or frustrate you, has something to teach you. Every failure, every mistake, every setback, it's all part of the curriculum. The question is, are you willing to be a student? Are you willing to learn from it, or will you let it pass you by? You can learn more from a single meaningful conversation with the right person than from years of passive education. You can gain more insight from reading one powerful book than from 100 hours of mindless content consumption, but you have to be deliberate about it. Learning doesn't just happen, it's something you cultivate. It requires curiosity, discipline, and the willingness to admit that you don't know everything. And that's hard for a lot of people. It's easier to cling to what you already believe, to stay in the comfort of familiarity, to reject anything that challenges your worldview. But real education, the kind that transforms you, demands that you step beyond what you think you know. It's not just about gathering information, it's about developing the ability to think critically, to analyze, to synthesize new ideas, to question assumptions, including your own. Because if you can't do that, if you're unwilling to engage with perspectives that differ from yours, then you're not learning. You're just reinforcing a limited version of reality. And that's dangerous. That's how people become rigid, narrow-minded, stuck in patterns that don't serve them. But the world is full of knowledge if you're open to it. History is there waiting to teach you the lessons of the past so you don't repeat them. Science is there revealing the intricate mechanics of reality, challenging you to see beyond what's obvious. Philosophy is there forcing you to grapple with the deepest questions of existence. And life itself, your experiences, your struggles, your victories, is constantly presenting you with lessons if you're willing to extract them. Technology has made it even easier. You have access to more knowledge than any generation before you. You can listen to lectures from the greatest minds of our time, read books that took lifetimes to write, engage in discussions with people across the world, all from the device in your pocket. But most people don't use it for that. They use it to escape, to distract themselves, to numb their minds instead of sharpening them. That's a tragedy. Because the ability to learn has never been more accessible. The only thing stopping you is you. The world isn't going to slow down. It's evolving constantly. And if you're not educating yourself daily, if you're not adapting, growing, expanding your understanding, then you're falling behind, you're becoming obsolete. And that's not an exaggeration. The people who refuse to learn, who resist growth, who close themselves off from new knowledge, they don't just stay the same, they deteriorate. Because stagnation isn't real. You're either progressing or regressing. And if you don't take responsibility for your own education, someone else will shape your mind for you. So look around, ask questions, read, listen, absorb, challenge yourself. Recognize that you are both the student and the teacher in your own life. And remember, education isn't about memorizing facts. It's about arming yourself with the knowledge and wisdom to navigate reality. It's about building a mind that is sharp, adaptable, and capable of withstanding the complexity of the world. Because if you don't, the world will make decisions for you. And that's not a position you want to be in. People talk a lot about motivation, as if it's some magical force that will push them forward, keep them consistent, and drive them towards success. But motivation is fleeting. It comes and goes like the wind. Unpredictable, unreliable, and entirely dependent on how you feel in the moment. And if you build your life around something that disappears the second things get difficult, you're setting yourself up for failure. The truth is, if you want to achieve anything meaningful, you can't rely on motivation. You have to rely on discipline. Discipline is what remains when motivation fades. It's what keeps you going when you don't feel like it, when you're tired, when the excitement has worn off, and when progress seems painfully slow. It's the decision to get up and do the work, not because you feel inspired, but because you've made a commitment to yourself, because you've built a standard that you refuse to fall below. And that's the difference between those who accomplish great things and those who stay stuck, waiting for the right mood to strike. The ones who succeed aren't the most motivated, they're the most disciplined. They do what needs to be done regardless of how they feel about it in the moment. It's easy to take action when you're excited, when you're filled with energy, when the vision of success is fresh in your mind, but that feeling never lasts. Eventually, the hard days come, the days when doubt creeps in, when progress feels invisible, when you start questioning whether any of it is worth it. And that's the breaking point. That's where most people stop. They tell themselves they'll try again when they feel ready, when they're in the right headspace, when motivation returns, but that moment never comes because they've trained themselves to only act when it's convenient. And that's a dangerous way to live. Discipline, on the other hand, is what separates those who wait from those who win. It's the ability to move forward regardless of circumstances, to follow through on commitments even when they're no longer exciting, to do the difficult things not because they feel good, but because they are necessary. And when you develop discipline, real, unshakable discipline, you become unstoppable. Because now your actions are no longer dictated by emotion, they're driven by principle. You've built a foundation that doesn't crumble under pressure. But discipline isn't something you're born with, it's something you build. And it's built through small daily choices. It's built every time you show up when you don't feel like it, every time you push past resistance, every time you silence the excuses and take action anyway. And the more you do that, the more you strengthen that muscle. Eventually, it becomes part of who you are. You no longer need motivation to get things done because discipline has taken its place. It's not about being perfect, it's about being consistent. Even when progress is slow, even when the results aren't immediate, even when no one is watching, especially when no one is watching, because that's the real test. Who are you when no one else is there to hold you accountable? When there's no applause, no recognition, no external pressure to keep going, that's where discipline matters most. It's not just about reaching a goal, it's about becoming the kind of person who follows through no matter what. And here's the thing, discipline gives you freedom. It might seem like the opposite at first, because discipline demands effort, sacrifice, structure. But in reality, it's what sets you free. Because when you are disciplined, you're no longer a slave to your impulses. You're no longer controlled by your emotions, your distractions, your bad habits. You take control of your own life. You decide what gets done. You build the future you want instead of waiting for it to somehow happen on its own. So stop waiting for motivation. Stop expecting to always feel inspired. Stop relying on a force that you know is inconsistent at best and non-existent when you need it most. Instead, build discipline. Build the ability to act regardless of how you feel, because that's what separates those who dream from those who do. Your mind is the operating system that runs your entire life. It determines how you see the world, how you interpret challenges, how you respond to setbacks, and ultimately what you achieve. And the truth is, most people never upgrade it. They go through life running on outdated beliefs, faulty assumptions, and patterns of thinking that no longer serve them. They cling to the same perspectives they developed years ago, never questioning whether those perspectives are holding them back, and then they wonder why they feel stuck. But here's the reality. Your life is a reflection of your mindset. The way you think shapes the way you act, and the way you act determines the results you get. If you believe you're incapable, you won't even try. If you see obstacles as unfair rather than as opportunities to grow, you'll remain exactly where you are. If you tell yourself success is for other people, you'll never push yourself to achieve it. Your thoughts are either constructing a future filled with possibility or building a cage around you, locking you into mediocrity. The good news is, just like software, your mindset can be upgraded. You can rewire the way you think, but it requires effort. It requires questioning the beliefs you've accepted as truth. It requires challenging the stories you tell yourself about who you are and what you're capable of. And most importantly, it requires replacing passive thinking with an active pursuit of growth. And one of the biggest shifts you can make is taking responsibility for your own life. And that's not easy, because it means letting go of excuses. It means acknowledging that your circumstances don't define you. Your response to them does. People waste years blaming the system, their upbringing, their bad luck, never realizing that as long as they cast themselves as victims, they're surrendering their power. The moment you take full responsibility for your own life, you reclaim control. You stop waiting for things to change and start making them change. And that shift alone, moving from a passive mindset to an active one, separates those who rise from those who remain stagnant. Because when you realize that growth is within your control, you stop seeing obstacles as stop signs and start seeing them as tests. You stop avoiding failure and start learning from it. You stop resenting hard work and start embracing it as the very thing that will set you apart. But upgrading your mindset isn't just about motivation, it's about discipline. It's about rewiring the way you approach challenges. Every time you catch yourself thinking, I can't do this, stop. Reframe it. I may not know how yet, but I can learn. Every time you face failure, instead of seeing it as proof that you're not good enough, see it as feedback, data that tells you what to improve. Every time you feel like giving up, remind yourself that struggle is not a sign to quit, it's a sign that you're pushing into new territory, and that's exactly where growth happens. It's uncomfortable, it's supposed to be. Growth isn't meant to be easy, it's meant to be transformative. If you feel resistance, that's a sign you're on the right path. Because no one upgrades their mindset by staying comfortable. Comfort is the enemy of progress. Comfort is what keeps people in the same routines, the same cycles, the same excuses. If you want to change your life, you have to be willing to step into discomfort, to lean into the struggle, to train your mind to see difficulty not as a threat, but as an opportunity to become stronger. And this applies to every area of life. Want to be successful? Upgrade your mindset to one that values discipline, resilience, and strategic thinking. Want to build meaningful relationships? Upgrade your mindset to prioritize communication, empathy, and accountability. Want to be healthier? Upgrade your mindset to one that respects your body, values consistency, and rejects short-term gratification. Everything starts in the mind. Everything. But here's the catch. No one can do this for you. No one can change your mindset except you. You can read all the books, listen to all the speeches, absorb all the information, but at the end of the day, you have to decide to apply it. You have to decide that staying the same is no longer an option. You have to commit to thinking differently, acting differently, being different. Because if you don't upgrade your mindset, you will live the same life over and over again, year after year, wondering why nothing changes. But if you do, if you actively choose growth, if you refuse to let outdated beliefs and excuses define you, then there is no limit to what you can achieve. Who you spend time with matters more than you realize. The people around you shape your mindset, your habits, and ultimately your future. It's a simple but profound truth. Your environment influences you whether you're aware of it or not. And if you're not intentional about the company you keep, you might be holding yourself back in ways you don't even see. Look at your closest circle. Are these people challenging you to grow? Are they pushing you toward excellence, holding you to a higher standard, inspiring you to be better? Or are they keeping you stagnant, comfortable, complacent, drifting through life without direction? Because the reality is you will start to reflect the mindset, values, and behaviors of those you surround yourself with. It happens gradually, subtly, but it happens. And if you're surrounded by people who have no ambition, no drive, no discipline, it's only a matter of time before you start adopting that same mindset. It's not about cutting people off for the sake of it. It's about being honest with yourself. If you want to grow, if you want to build something meaningful with your life, you have to surround yourself with people who challenge you, who make you think, who demand more from you than you demand from yourself. Great minds elevate you. They force you to level up, to refine your thinking, to sharpen your skills. They don't let you settle for mediocrity because they don't settle for it themselves. And these people aren't always easy to be around. They'll call you out when you're making excuses. They'll question your beliefs. Not to tear you down, but to make sure you've actually thought them through. They won't let you hide behind comfort because they know that growth doesn't happen there. And that's exactly what you need. If everyone around you agrees with you all the time, if they never push back, if they never challenge your assumptions, then you're not growing. You're just reinforcing what you already believe, staying locked in the same patterns and mistaking comfort for progress. But surrounding yourself with great minds isn't just about the people you physically spend time with, it's also about the voices you allow into your head. The books you read, the podcasts you listen to, the lectures you absorb, these are all part of your environment. If you don't have access to high-level thinkers in your immediate life, seek them out through their work. Read the books written by the greatest minds in history. Study the principles of those who have built extraordinary lives. Expose yourself to wisdom that stretches you beyond what you think you know. Because you don't have to personally know someone to be mentored by them. Their words, their ideas, their philosophies. These can become part of your thinking if you engage with them deeply and consistently. But here's the thing, you also have to earn your place in these circles. You can't just expect to be surrounded by great minds if you're not actively working on yourself. If you want to be in the company of disciplined, intelligent, driven people, you need to embody those qualities yourself. No one who values growth and excellence is going to waste their time with someone who refuses to do the work. You have to bring something to the table. You have to be someone who contributes, who adds value, who is worth engaging with on a meaningful level. That means developing yourself relentlessly. It means reading, thinking critically, building competence, and maintaining discipline. It means being willing to learn, to be wrong, to be corrected. It means having conversations that go beyond the surface, that challenge assumptions, that push you towards something greater. And when you become that kind of person, you naturally start attracting others who operate at the same level. This is one of the most important decisions you will ever make, who you allow into your life, whose energy you absorb, whose mindset influences yours, because the wrong environment can kill ambition just as easily as the right one can ignite it. And if you take this seriously, if you intentionally build a circle of people who push you to be better, who refuse to let you stay small, then there is no limit to how far you can go. Knowledge without action is meaningless. You can read every book, listen to every lecture, absorb every piece of wisdom ever spoken, but if you don't apply what you've learned, it's useless. People fall into the trap of thinking that accumulating knowledge is enough, that simply understanding an idea is the same as living it. But it's not. Knowing what to do and actually doing it are two entirely different things. And the gap between those two is where most people stay stuck. How many times have you come across a powerful insight, nodded your head in agreement, and then carried on exactly as before? How many times have you been inspired, motivated, convinced that you needed to make a change, only to do nothing about it? This is the cycle that keeps people trapped, endlessly consuming information, but never applying it in a way that transforms their reality. The real challenge isn't acquiring knowledge, it's using it. It's taking what you've learned and integrating it into your daily life. It's making small, consistent adjustments in your thinking, your habits, your decisions. And that's not easy, because applying knowledge requires effort. It requires discomfort. It requires action, even when you don't feel ready. You can't wait until you feel fully prepared, because that moment never comes. The perfect conditions, the perfect mindset, the perfect opportunity, these are illusions. Growth happens through action. Confidence is built through doing. Mastery comes from practice, not theory. The only way to bridge the gap between knowledge and transformation is through execution. If you want to change your life, apply what you learn. Not tomorrow, not next week, now. Take even the smallest step in the direction of your growth, because information alone won't change you, only action will. Every single day, you are either moving forward or falling behind. There is no standing still. If you aren't actively learning, expanding your understanding, and sharpening your mind, then the world will move past you, and that's a dangerous place to be. Knowledge is power, but only if you use it. Growth is freedom, but only if you pursue it. The world itself is your classroom. Every experience, every challenge, every failure is a lesson waiting to be extracted. But knowledge alone is never enough. Discipline must take the place of fleeting motivation. Your mindset must evolve if you expect your life to evolve. You must surround yourself with people who challenge you, who refuse to let you settle, who demand more from you than you demand from yourself. And above all, you must act. You must apply what you learn, because all the wisdom in the world is worthless if it remains trapped in theory. This isn't about temporary inspiration. It's about transformation. It's about making the deliberate decision to take control of your mind, your habits, your direction every single day. Because if you don't, someone else will. And you cannot afford to let that happen.